Yeah, push the okay.
Yes. So this presentation, I'm going to take you through our student work experience. And what does it mean? So I'm going to introduce you what we are as a firm, what do we want from the students, what do we expect from the students, what can you expect from us, and go over all the different details. So what do we do? So we're an indoor vertical farming. So we have a grow unit that you can see in the background. We order the parts and create it ourselves. And then we produce the produce ourselves. We also have different options of selling the equipment and all or licensing it out to different companies. So this is a fully controlled environment. We are able to control the pH, the air temperature, even up to how many nutritions each plant gets. This allows us to be pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide free. And we want to fully capitalize on this and go GMO and organic free as well. We are an international firm. I think this will pique your interest. In this map, you can see all the red dots are where students or interns are. You can see me there in the Netherlands. We have somebody from Germany, a couple of from India, some from Guam, Hawaii, and a lot of spread out in Canada. The blue dot is Zale, so he's in Baltimore. And then the green dot close to him is Philadelphia, where we are going to launch our first facility. And the one close to Puerto Rico is going to be a facility that's going to purchase our equipment. So we're very international and very focused on an online environment. This to enable students to come to us from anywhere in the world. We're also in talks with Australia. And this makes us very flexible. We don't require your students to work from 8 to 5 in a set of specific time zone. They can work their own 8 to 5 and what they prefer to, because we have students having a full-time job combining this, and we are flexible to accommodate their needs. Allowing this kind of structure is for the students to create a network which is very international minded and not focused on the university or 20 kilometers close to them. But there is one downside, which is the time zones. It can happen that students may need to attend a meeting beyond their normal working hours, but this will be communicated far in advance and seen, and we will always see if the student is able to attend this meeting. So what are our goals for the student relationship? So what we want is for the students to focus on what they really want to become. So for me, it is a consultant. And part of presenting is actually very crucial. And this is something that I really focused on in this internship, and I've learned and got a lot better at it. And that's what we want to give to your students. So they would come into us, we would talk to them and say, what do they specifically want, and adjust their tasks, their title accordingly. So we, in return, want proactive students which focus on critical thinking and presenting. So if somebody comes in and has an idea, we want them to pitch their idea via presentation. This can be any idea, and then we go over the idea and see if it's a relevant idea. If it's good, maybe it needs to be boxed in for later. Or maybe we, for any reason, decide to not go ahead of it. But we always want students to give their opinions on everything. Another structure we have is team lead and team member. I think this is where this will pique your interest. Every team we have consists of team members and a team lead. So you always need a sort of a team leader, which takes responsibility for the group, which has a clear oversight and attends a weekly meeting with Zale to go over what has happened last week, what is happening this week, what is happening in the future, is there anything we need to change or adapt? And team members can become team leads. So this is where probably your students will fit in, and they will be managing a whole team and then communicating it with Zale. So our company culture, we have a flat hierarchy, as we believe everybody's opinion is worth equally. This would mean that a team member has a say that their opinion is valued the same as for me as project coordinator or a team leader. But up until the decision is made, everybody's equal. But when the decision has to be made, it's always Zale's responsibility. This takes away the pressure of students to open up freely. And by having this, the student is never to be blamed for an idea. what we found is that students find this very comfortable, and it takes away a lot of the pressure, especially initially. What we also have is an agile project management. So we work in weekly sprints, meaning that instead of having a whole project where your students are thrown in, we have cut it all up into weeks with up to 12 weeks. This means that a student can come in, join a sprint for a specific project, and after that sprint, the student can go into another sprint of another project to see a different side of the firm. This makes us very flexible for the student and have the so flexibility for both ways, and also makes us adaptable, because in the weekly meeting we assess every week what has happened and what's going to happen. If something would have occurred, some new information or some event would have happened, we would be able to adapt quickly and change our project management accordingly. Zale, do you want to explain this one?
Sure. So this is our underlying architecture of all the systems that we're actually building to back up the technology. So we have the light green are unique in that they're a piece of hardware. They're Arduinos, but if you're not familiar with Arduinos, you're probably familiar with the term IoT, Internet of Things. So basically a piece of internet equipment that sits in the grow unit that manages the grow unit, when to turn on the lights, when to turn on the water, what the nutrients are, and a zillion little sensors to track everything. And so every grow unit would have one of these. Typical facility will have 120 grow units. So it'll be 120 of these little IoT devices. The grow units sit in grow rooms. Every grow room will have its own IoT thing to manage the room. So it'll be 5 of those. That's a facility, and the entire facility, of course, needs a management thing. So that's the management of the facility. And over here, we have the system that manages all the facilities. So currently, we have planned one for Philadelphia, one for the Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands, and we're talking to people in Oman, and we're talking to people elsewhere. So we need in multiple places. We need to manage all the management processes there. We need to tell the system how to grow basil versus how to grow kale versus how to grow tomatoes. That piece of technology is sitting in there. We track all the data that's being captured, all that sensor data, all the quality data. We have an ERP system. Customer comes in and says, hey, I want 40,000 pounds of cucumbers for a week, so because I'm in a pickle manufacturer. So that whole kind of planning system is in our ERP over there. Because we're also manufacturing of our equipment, we have a separate ERP system for the manufacturing of the equipment. This ERP sits in every facility. This ERP is just one system that manages our ability to produce all our equipment for all our customers. Finally, we have 5 different apps that represents the 5 different types of customers we have. We have obviously a consumer app. We don't directly sell to consumers, but we want to allow the consumer to come and talk to us, just like GM doesn't sell a car directly, goes through a license, it goes through a GM, I don't know whatever you call them, store there, but GM does talk to its customers. Then we have for the next one is of course for the distributor, who's the one who picks up our products and delivers them to the customers. Then we have the food service, so it would be the restaurants, Taco Bell, McDonald's, those kinds of people. Then we have the retailer, so it'd be your Canadian Loblaw, the states that we use the example of Giant. And then lastly, we have the manufacturers. We have that guy, that company that's buying 40,000 pounds of cucumbers to turn them into pickles. Each one of those has a slightly, while a lot of their functionality would be the same, how they look at each product and what they think is important would be different from there.
And then we have our general tools. So we use Asana for a project management tool. This is where the Agile comes in, where it's task focused. Students see what tasks have to be done and when they have to be done. And we have our GitLab, which is a repository. So that's like a OneDrive where each single document is constantly being saved. So we don't have to worry about somebody working on a document and then erasing something and then forever be lost. That's done by GitLab. Then we have Discord for general communication. We call this WhatsApp on steroids. It is very easy to communicate to each other. You can text people personally. You can talk within a specific project, within a group. We make general announcements on there. It's similar to Slack. And we also work with educational institutions. For example, Dalhousie, that's where I'm from. We have Lethbridge College, we have University of Hawaii, Toronto School of Management, and George Brown. And we are waiting for students from Ryerson, Cambrian, and Athabasca. What we found during our initial internship days, we found that when we need to set clear expectations from all sides. We do this via a contract. A contract is where the student knows what they can expect from us, what we can expect from the students. So how many work hours a week, what are the deliverables, and what does you as a university expect from us? So is it a forum at the end? Is it a midterm meeting? And what does the university expect from the student? So is it a 2-weekly report, 3-weekly report, etc.? This contract is not legally enforceable. It's just purely to set expectations. And we found that this is the best way to do it. And after your students are done, we want to help them as much as possible. So at the end of their internship, they get to write their own letter of reference. We believe that students know best what they've done themselves, and they know what their future employer wants to know. So normally in a CV, you have a couple of lines. So this would be in addition to the CV. And when the student has written this letter of reference, Zil will look over it, edit it, and then sign off on it. And the student can then use it however they want. This was my presentation. Do you have any questions?